So we're just going to do a bunch of practicing with factoring different types of polynomials. So if I'm going to factor, the very, very first thing I do every time I factor, regardless, is I see if there is something common. So I'm looking at this, I've got two terms. He's got an x squared and he's got an x, which, and I'm not going to do this every time. But if you look at it that way, that means that I've got this x and this x in common. Okay, I can divide out an x, and it doesn't matter if I highlighted this one or that one, because as long as I highlight one. So what do they share? They both share an x. So if I divide out an x, what I'm really doing is x squared minus 6x, and I'm dividing x out of both of them. Okay, so I'm dividing by x, which is right here. So what is x squared divided by x? It is x, which is what was left. Okay, what is negative 6x divided by x? It is negative 6, and that's what was left that I didn't highlight. So I have now rewritten this binomial in factored form. Okay, so let's try another one. I've got 6b squared plus 2b. So the first thing I do every time I factor is I see if there is something common. So I'm going to look, and this is a 6 times a b times a b plus a 2 times a b, which I could also say 3 times 2 times b plus 2 times b. So what do they share? They both have a 2. They both have a 2. They both have a b. They both have a b. So I'm going to divide out a 2b. What's left? On this term, a 3b is left. Plus, what is any number divided by itself? Any number divided by itself is 1. So I started with the binomial. I better end with the binomial on the inside. Okay? So more practice. I've got m to the 14th minus m to the 13th. So I have 14 m's here. I have 13 m's here. What's the most that they share? They share 13 m's. So when I divide m to the 14th by m to the 13th, that means I've removed all but one of the m's by division. Minus, what is any number divided by itself? Any number divided by itself is 1. So that one is done, and now this one is done. Okay, so if it helps you to write it out and highlight, then feel free to do that. Okay, so I have a 10b to the 4th plus a 5b. So what do they share? I've got a binomial. What do they share? Well, these both have factors of 5, and I can pull a single b out of both. Okay, out of both. So I'm going to pull out a 5b, which is a fancy way, or a slacker way, actually, of saying I'm going to divide. So I'm going to divide 10b squared by 5b, and that's going to leave me with a 2b to the 3rd. And then any number divided by itself is 1. So I've completed factoring again. I have rewritten a binomial into its factored form. Let's try some more. So I have 7xy minus 6xy to the 3rd. And my pen just died. My goodness. 6xy to the 3rd. Okay, so what do they have in common? Do 7 and 6 have common factors? No, because this one's factors are 1 and 7. This one's factors are 1, 2, 3, 6. So other than 1, they don't have any common factors. What about x's? I can pull an x out of both of those. Okay. What about y's? I can pull one y out of both of those. So tell me the most you can pull out of both. All right, so 7xy divided by xy gives me 7 minus 6xy to the 3rd divided by xy. Well, the 6 isn't going anywhere. X divided by x is 1. Y to the 3rd divided by y is y squared. So I have factored out the greatest common factor. All right, I have 8m to the 4th n to the 5th plus 40m to the 4th n to the 4th. So I've got a binomial, and I want to factor out the greatest common factor. So can I pull out a number? Can I pull out a constant? Well, 8 is a factor, and 8 is a factor of 40. So I can pull an 8 out of both. So remember when I say what can I pull out, I'm asking what can I divide out? Excuse me. How many m's can I pull out? Well, he's got 4 m's being multiplied. He's got 4 m's multiplied. So I can pull out 4 m's that are being multiplied. How many n's? He's got 5. He's got 4. So the most I can pull out of both is 4. So what's that going to leave me with? Look at the first term. 8 divided by 8 is 1. M to the 4th divided by m to the 4th is 1. N to the 5th divided by n to the 4th is a single n to the 1st, and I'm too lazy to write the 1. Plus 40 divided by 8 is 5. M to the 4th divided by m to the 4th is 1. N to the 4th divided by n to the 4th is 1. So I started with a binomial. I ended with a binomial in parentheses. So I have factored out the greatest common factor. I'm so sorry. All right, so let's try another one. I have a 40x to the 3rd minus a 32x squared plus an 8x. So I'm starting with a trinomial. I'm starting with 3 terms. Okay? Starting with 3 terms. So I have what's common among 40, 32, and 8. Well, I can pull an 8 out of all 3 of those. So I'm going to pull out an 8. He's got 3 x's being multiplied. He's got 2 x's being multiplied. He's got 1 x being multiplied. So I'm going to pull out a single x. That's the most I can pull out of everything. So 40 divided by 8 is 5. X to the 3rd divided by x is x squared. So I'm done with the first term. Negative 32 divided by 8 is negative 4. X squared divided by x is x. Okay? Any number divided by itself is 1. So I started with a trinomial. I better end with a trinomial after factoring out a greatest common factor. All right, let's try again. I have a 4x plus y plus an 8n x plus y. So this is kind of ugly, okay? So what I'm going to look at is the fact that I have a plus sign here, okay? So that plus sign there, let's move this up just a little bit, is going to, this is a binomial, the way it stands. It's not organized, it's not pretty, and once we organized it, it would be better. But I got this chunk plus this chunk. So I would like to know, what do these 2 chunks have in common? So I'm going to compare the numbers. And then he's got an n, he doesn't, so there's nothing there. And then I've got this chunk of x plus y. Okay, so what do they have in common? I can pull a 4 out of both. I can pull a 4 out of here, I can pull a 4 out of here. So we're going to pull out a 4. Okay, I cannot pull an n out of both. I can also pull this x plus y out of both. So I'm going to factor out an x plus y. So now, what do I have left? So just like we did before, whatever I pulled out, it changed into a multiplication problem. So I've pulled out a 4x plus y. So this is my first term. So I've got a 4 times x plus y, and I pulled it out. So what is a 4 times x plus y divided by a 4 times x plus y? Anything divided by itself is 1. So now let's go over here. Okay, so here's my plus. I've got 8 divided by 4 is 2. Okay. N divided by, well, there's no n, so he's got to stay. Okay, and I pulled out the x plus y. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. The n stays. He didn't get pulled out, but the x plus y did get pulled out. So that is your new factor. That is your new factored form. Okay, so this is your answer. And it looks kind of weird. Just remember I got this chunk plus this chunk. What do the chunks have in common? So let's try some more. I have a 7r minus 9 and an r plus 6 minus a 2r minus 1 and an r plus 6. So we have the same scenario. I've got a big old chunk minus a big old chunk. So do the big old chunks have anything in common? He's got a 7r minus 9. Does he have a 7r minus 9? No, that's not common. He has an r plus 6. Does he have an r plus 6? Yes, he does. So I can divide out an r plus 6. So when I divide out an r plus 6, tell me what's left. I'm going to divide out r plus 6 from the first term. So this is this big chunk. I shouldn't say term. From this big chunk. So when I divide the r plus 6 out, what's left? That's going to leave me with a 7r plus 9. So I'm going to write it like this. 7r plus 9. That's what's left. Move to the second chunk. So I have a minus. Okay? And then I am going to look at what's left on my next chunk. I pulled out the r plus 6. So what's left? A 2r minus 1. Okay, so now we're going to step back a little bit because now we've got work to do. Is there something I know how to do on the inside of these parentheses? I can distribute that negative right there. So this r plus 6 is going to come along for the ride. And now what I have is a 7r plus 9 minus a 2r plus 1. So this is like terms. I've got 7r's here minus 2r's here. I've got a 9 and a 1. So my r plus 6 is going to continue to come along for the ride. 7r's minus 2r's is 5r's. Okay? And then 9 plus 1 is 10. So I end up with an r plus 6 times 5r plus 10. I'm so sorry. All right, so we've got time for about one more. So let's do one more. I have a 6st plus a 4t. I have to remember to shut off my phone before I start recording. Minus 21s's minus 14. Okay, so I'm going to organize this a little bit first because I may have to rearrange. I've got 4 terms this time. So I'm going to see if I can arrange stuff. And if you'll notice, he's got s's, he doesn't. He's got s's, he doesn't. Those are divisible by 3's. Okay? These are divisible by t's. These are divisible by 2. So there's a lot of common stuff, but there's nothing common to all 4 terms. So I'm going to take this, this is called factoring by grouping. And I'm going to look at just the first 2. I may have to rearrange, I may not, I don't know. So I'm going to look at just the first 2. What's common on just the first 2? So he's got a 6, he's got a 4. I can pull out a 2. I can also pull out a t. So I'm going to pull out a 2t. Now tell me what's left on just the first 2 terms. That's going to leave me with a 3s plus 2. Okay, so let's see what's common on the other 2. Let's see what's common on the other 2. I can divide both of these. Well, I'm leading off negative, and I never want to lead off negative. So I know I'm going to pull out a negative to change the sign on this. And I can pull out a 7. So I'm going to pull out a negative 7. And that leaves me with negative 21s divided by negative 7. Leaves me with a positive 3s. Negative 14 divided by negative 7 leaves me with a positive 2. And now if you'll look, we're someplace familiar. So I've got 2 big chunks separated by subtraction, and they each have this term in common. So tell me what you're going to divide out from each chunk. I'm going to divide out a 3s plus 2. What's left when I divide this by 3s plus 2 is a 2t. What's left when I divide this by 3s plus 2, and that's a minus 7. And now you're done. So I think that's a great place to stop. and I will see you in the next video.